Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, one of the comments I get more often now we've finished the van is what would I do differently or what would I change? And you might be wondering why I'm up on the roof of the van. Well, this is one of the things that we plan to swap out. These roof fans, as you know, if you've been watching our European tour, were giving us a little bit of a problem when we was in Portugal. One of the things is this rain sensor. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be raining, it can just be overcast or misty, and these are very sensitive, and we're finding that these fans just don't stay open. And what we're having to do is we're having to manually turn the power off to these to keep them open, which really just isn't practical. The other thing as well is what we've found since living in the van is when it's raining or it's cold outside, you do need the ventilation a bit more, because that's when you're going to get condensation problems. And these particular fans, obviously, as you can see, they're pretty open, so when it's raining, rain just pours in there, so you can't actually use these when the weather's bad, and that's the time when you need ventilation the most. So what we're planning to do is I'm actually planning to swap these fans out. Now, it's a big job because obviously we've Sikaflex these to the roof with mastic and Sikaflex sealant, so it's going to be quite a job to get these off. But I've ordered some special remover that Sikaflex produce, so hopefully that will get rid of this sealant that we've got around here. We'll be able to get these fans off, and then what I'm actually going to replace these with is Maxxfans. Now, as a good friend of mine, Greg, he's actually built a Sprinter van conversion and he fitted Maxxfans, and we met up with him a few weeks ago in Leicester just to have a look at his Maxxfan installation, and we shot some video. So before we get into any detail of what we're going to do here, let's have a quick look at Greg's fans on his roof. So Greg, you've probably watched a lot of YouTube channels when you was deciding to do your build, so what actually made you decide to choose these particular fans?
Yes, I did watch a lot of videos when I started to do the van, and along with your videos there were others from like Adventure in a Backpack and things like that, and I saw these fans on their channel and thought, wow, they're brilliant. You know, you can have them open when it's raining, you can keep them on, keep the fan spinning and put the lid down as well. I just thought they're the ones for me.
Yeah, because it was kind of what made me think of changing mine. Originally I thought the rain sensors were going to be quite a good idea,
yeah.
You know, and if it's raining and they would close, but what we found now when we were living in the van is that's when you probably need ventilation the most, because that's when you get all the condensation and everything built up,
yeah.
And we can't have ours open, and even sleeping overnight we find that even if it's just an overcast day or cloudy, that's enough just to trigger them sensors, and they shut. So these are brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah, they are very, very good. Yeah, you can drive with them up, you can you know, open.
Oh, so you can leave them open,
yeah,
you can still drive
along with them. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
I don't know what kind of speed.
Yeah, sure.
But you know, certainly motorway driving might be a bit excessive.
But then, as well as that, you can also have them closed and running as well at the same time.
Yeah, I'll show you with the remote in a short while that you can have that spinning at 100% with the lid down.
Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah. So you wake up in the morning, it's raining, you've got condensation. Just up there you go, and on they are. Yeah, brilliant.
What we'll do, we'll pop up on the roof and we'll have a look at them actually working.
Yeah, no problem.
Excellent. So these are how the Maxxair fans are designed. The lid is slightly longer than the base, and obviously it overhangs at the back. And then underneath here, this is where the air comes out of this louver at the back. So obviously the lid is covering all of where the air comes out. So that's why you can open these in the rain and they still operate, which is the best feature ever. And then of course when you close the fan down and it's shut, that vent is still open, so it enables you to run the fan even in the closed position. So let's just see how they operate. See, they're really low profile still, and yet that grill is still able to let the air in and out underneath, and you can still run the fan from inside. What's an absolutely brilliant idea that is. Right, while we're inside the van here, we're just going to have a quick look at the controls and how these fans work. So at the moment it's closed and it's on about 10%, which is its lowest setting. And I think you'll agree, like, I can't even hear that running, that's so quiet. So, would you open it up for us, Greg?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so that's the vent open now fully, and it's still on its lowest speed. So let's have a look at the controls here. You've got an infrared remote control, which is obviously a big bonus, as I've only got the controls on the fan, so you can only use them if you're right next to it. But obviously with this you can use them from pretty much anywhere in the van, I would imagine. So what have we got on there, Greg?
It's telling us that the air, the fan's spinning in such a way that the air's going out of the van.
And you can have them on extract and supply?
Yes, this button here, you press that one and it will say air in, and then the fan will change direction.
Oh yeah, I just see it spin round there.
If I change it again while you're on the fan, so that stops, and that
comes to a stop.
Air out again now, so the air's being forced out of the van.
Alright, cool. And then it's on its lowest setting, but how many speed settings has it got?
It's got 10, so it goes from 10% to 100%.
And is that sort of infinitely variable, or it goes up in 10%?
It goes in 10%
increments.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's also got a temperature thermostat on this as well, isn't it? So it'll work on...
I believe so, yes. I mean, you can set the temperature so that when the air or the temperature inside the vehicle reaches a certain point, the fans will automatically come on, lift up. You can set one to pull the air in and the other one to extract the air, which obviously
and if
changes.
It just gets hot in here, they're all just going to come on automatically.
Exactly, yeah. And then once it's down to its set temperature, then the fans will close.
Brilliant.
Saving your leisure batteries.
Well, let's ramp it up to the full speed, and let's see how noisy they are.
Okay. 30. That's 100%.
Yeah. Obviously, but then that's moving a hell of a lot of air, isn't it? So,
oh yes, that's moving a lot of air, yeah.
So what about sort of 50%, Mark? Yeah, I'm going to do a little test on mine, and I'll show you what mine are like on 1, 2 and 3. But even at 50%, that's still really quiet, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's not overly loud, I don't think. But
no, they're brilliant. Thanks very much.
No problem. Pleasure.
So obviously you can see these are our fans open, and of course they're just completely open to the elements. So if it does start raining, you know, all the water's just going to pour in there. And obviously that's that rain sensor that we've seen on previous videos that was causing us a bit of a nuisance. So the idea is when it does rain, if we get a drop of water on there, it shuts the fans. But what we found when we're living in the van is you really need the ventilation when it's raining and the van's all shut up, because that's the time when you probably get more condensation on your windows. And also, obviously, when it's raining and you're stuck in the van and you want to do some cooking, you know, you get a lot of condensation from cooking, so you need to have a vent open. So just for comparison, what we'll do is we'll flick ours onto speed 1 and just see how noisy that is. So there's definitely a lot more wind noise. There's definitely a lot more air noise on that setting. So turn it up to 3 for us though. Yeah, that's a world of difference, isn't it? I mean, you're probably struggling to hear me speak over that. I mean, it's shifting a hell of a lot of air, but it's so much more noisier than the Maxxair ones. Put it down to 1 again. So, and even on that low setting, you'd struggle to have that on overnight and try and sleep with it, unless it was really baking hot and you was desperate. Now with the Maxxair fan, as we've just seen on that other video, they overhang slightly on this curb. So the lid is longer than the base by a couple of 100 mil, and that's where the vent is, which allows you to use them when it's closed. Now obviously I've got my solar panels here, so what we need to do is we need to make some allowance for that extra overhang. Now I've only got probably about 140 millimeters there. So what we're going to have to do in order to fit these Maxxfans is I'm going to have to shove these solar panels all together, and that gap that I originally had between the panels, I'm going to have to close them up. Now I've got 100 mil in between each panel, so I've got 200 mil spare there. So I'm going to bolt the panels together nice and tight, bolt them back down to the roof. That's going to give me another 200 millimeters here. I'll have plenty of room to put those new Maxxfans in. And we're actually going to swap both out. So I'm going to put one Maxxfan at the front, one Maxxfan at the back, and they're just going to work absolutely perfectly. And while I'm up on the roof as well, I've just noticed there's a bit of dust and dirt on the old solar panels, so I'm going to take the opportunity to give them a clean as well, make sure they're working at their maximum capacity. One of the other things that I'd change if we did the van again would be how we've run the power supplies, and these two 30 volt sockets. A lot of people on the internet did advise me to go 12 volt on everything, and I really should have listened. It's not that they don't work, because they work perfectly. Now all these sockets in the van are fed either from the inverter or they're fed off a mains hookup, and it all comes via that panel with the changeover switch. It works perfectly. We've got power here all the time, but I haven't got any dedicated 12 volt USBs. So the only way that we can actually charge our smart devices is by having the inverter on, and it's really not the most efficient way to run all your smart devices off of a battery, because you're having to convert that 12 volt electricity up to 230 volts and then back down to these USBs, which are only running at about 5 volts. The other thing that we've found, and this is probably an anomaly of my inverter, it's a pure sine wave inverter, but the power supply is probably a little bit dirty. It's not a pure sine wave, it's a little bit jumpy, and modern technology doesn't really like that kind of power. And what we've found is, especially with phones, Kindles or anything like that, when we plug them in, they charge fine, no problem at all. As you'll see when I plug this in, you heard there that it's now charging. I can see the little charging symbol there, but if I go to use the phone, the screen is completely inactive, and it's not until I unplug it from the socket that now it becomes active and you can use it. Now I don't think that's an issue with the actual installation. I think that's possibly just an issue with my inverter, but obviously we can't use the devices when they're plugged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change a lot of these sockets for 12 volt sockets, and then I'm going to change that wiring in the garage and run it directly off my leisure batteries, and I'm not going to run it off the inverter. So that way we don't have to have the inverter on when we're charging our tech, and all our devices should work okay. One of the other changes that I'd make is that I'd simplify the electrics. I wouldn't build a panel like I have done here. Although this works really well and is perfect, in all the time that we've been using the van, the solar systems work so well that we've been 100% on solar the whole time. We haven't actually needed to hook up at all. So I've never actually needed to turn this switch over on the panel from solar to mains. It's always been on solar the whole time, and we've just been running off these leisure batteries from Alpha Batteries. The whole systems work perfectly. So if I did another one, I probably would concentrate on making the solar system really efficient like this one, and then I wouldn't bother putting this mains changeover switch. I'd run as much of the van as I could off of the 12 volt system, and then I really only have the mains hook up for a mains battery charger and maybe the odd socket, but really simplify this installation quite a lot. So there we go guys, I've got a few build videos to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. I'm obviously going to be doing a detailed review of those Maxxfans. I'm going to be doing a detailed installation video. I'm going to have to take off those old fans and then fit the new ones. I'm also going to be doing a video on changing those sockets in the van for those dedicated 12 volt USBs. I've managed to source some 12 volt USB sockets, so we're going to swap those out. Also going to do a little bit of wiring in the back of the garage, because I've got to swap the 230 volt supplies for 12 volts. And then I'm also going to do a wiring installation video. I promised at the end of the controls video that I'll be releasing a schematic of the wiring in the van. So we're going to have a detailed run through that, and I'm also going to tell you some tips about cable sizing and fuse sizing. So there's loads of stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks, so please do make sure that you are subscribed, because you won't want to miss these coming videos. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Cheers.